back in session.
Whereas the Lancaster County Board of Supervisors convened in a closed meeting on June 24th, 2021, pursuit of an affirmative recorded vote of a motion to close the meeting to discuss personnel, legal matters, and acquisition of real property in accordance with Sections 2.2, 3711A1, 2.2, 3711A8, and 2.2, 3711A3 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.237D of the Code of Virginia requires certification by the Board of Supervisors that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, now that it be resolved that the Lancaster County Board of Supervisors hereby certifies to the best of each member's knowledge only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act were heard, discussed, or considered in closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting to which the certification applies. Before the vote is taken on this resolution, is there any member who believes that there is a departure from the requirements of number 1 and number 2 above? If so, identify yourself and state the substance of the matter why your judgment it was a departure. Hearing none, I will call the statement. Mr. Palin?
I certify.
Mr. Bellows, I certify. Mr. Lee?
I'll certify.
Mr. Larson?
I certify.
And Dr. Westbrook?
I certify.
The certification resolution is adopted.
All right, good.
Mr. Palin?
Yes.
You should probably advise the public about the resolution allowing Mr. Lawson to participate.
Okay. Mr. Larson is not here presently, but he is here. He's participating electronically, and we've already gone through the policy here that we've read and adopted to allow him to do that by electronic version. All right, so.
Can you put him on the screen, Glenn?
All right, so now we have, before we get going, we have from the closed session, we have a thing that we want to vote on. And Mr. Conwell, will you draft that motion again?
Yes, sir, I'll be happy to. If I can get to the right document on my screen. Can you hear me? I'm supposed to be on.
Are you on?
The green light's on. Mr. Chairman, the school board has taken an option on, I believe it's 4 parcels of real estate in Lancaster County that it wishes to purchase and wishes the county to purchase. It's known as the 3 Conkle properties and the Carter property out near the Dreamfields. The school board has requested that the county agree to, the school board will assign to the county the options to purchase these properties and ask the county to agree to the assignment to purchase. And the school board will be transferring back to the county unallocated, unexpended funds that were allocated to the school board for the purchase of these properties. And if it is the board's wish, the motion would be is to agree to accept the assignment of these properties, the 3 Conkle properties and the Carter property, from the school board, and to close on the purchase of these properties in the name of the county.
All right, gentlemen, y'all have heard the motion that Mr. Conway has proposed for us. Now, so I'm going to put that motion on the floor. All those in favor of the motion, I want you to say aye, and then I'm going to ask for the nays. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All right, all those as opposed, nay.
Nay.
All right, so you got 3 ayes and 2 nays. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're moving forward.
Public input session.
All right, yeah. We have public input session, and each person, you have 5 minutes, and at the end, and when you get down to 4 minutes, I'm gonna hold up the sign, letting you know that you have 1 minute left. And the ones that are on, that's participating electronically, also I'm gonna have you to have an opportunity if you desire to speak, and also if you can't see me, I will hold up the 1 minute sign. If I think you can't see me, I will just announce that you have 1 minute left. Okay, at this point in time now, I'm open up. We ready?
Yeah,
All right.
just make it known that the public input session is for non-public hearing matters.
Okay, non-public hearing matters, nothing that's already on the agenda. That's what the public input session is for, nothing that's already on the agenda. All right, public input session is now open. Yes, sir.
Charlie Costello, District 2. I'm missing one piece. This is a historic time. You all are here at that time when this county is going to experience a tremendous change. We're closing the fiscal year. And next week, July 1, and about this time, Dominion Energy will have finished its open house down at the high school. They put it out, this was their ad, and their ad is on the local life section again this week, talking about it and what they put out. It's very interesting that they had their items put together in a draft dated May 27th, 2021, with the agenda, the sites that they'll be covered, and the acreage that they're looking at, and it's all within, Bill, you probably could throw a football over there and hit the property that they're gonna be on. It's right up Avis Trail and over here in the courthouse. So it's about 1,200 acres. With a lot of problems coming along. But I find it very ironic that the week before, on the front page of the Rap Record, we have the real Virginia to feature Lancaster County, with a picture of them on Ronnie Forrester's property. In fact, they talked to Craig Giese and so on. And we get to see it at 3:30 on July 3rd about our county and the ruralness and all of it. So it's on RFD. And I can't get it because I don't pay for it on Dish. But, gentlemen, I hope that you realize how serious this all is and look for it. I understand from the writings in the paper today, Jackie, your article about Northumberland Solar, and the article quoting how they're holding off on their solars because of the problems that Essex County has had in their project, and the fire that took place up there, and the problems the fire department had trying to get in to suppress it. You need fire suppression, you're gonna have battery storage. I talked about it last week, and I was poo-pooed at the Planning Commission by somebody who I will not mention, but it's there in the Dominion Energy, 100 megawatts and a 50 megawatt battery storage facility. Gentlemen, you've got to be careful because we're counting on you. And erosion and soil and all the rest of it needs to be highly considered. Please, 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 you've got to stand up. Jason, we need to do what we do with Dominion when they start to come across the river, and with the towers that we're going to carry, towers are going to be built to carry 230, and I'll wager the condos that went in the river are at 230, and we're going to see 230 through here to carry all the load to the grid. And if you want to see that thing earlier, you probably already have seen it, but I can get you the site and send it to you. I'll send it to you. And Bob and Jack, I want to thank you two for the service you had from the time of your military service, your civil service, and all the rest of it. It's been, 40 or 50 years you all have put on this stuff. Thank you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Is there anyone out in the audience electronically that wants to speak? If so, wave your hand or raise your hand. Okay, if not, then the public hearing is now closed. All right, we're moving on to the Virginia Department of Transportation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I think David sent y'all a report. I don't really have a whole lot other than, things may be a little bit slower for the next few weeks than what they normally are. Our neighbors have got more damage from us heavy rains and all, so we're gonna have to take some resources and head them up there to help out with that, so that's about all I have.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to personally thank Mr. Bryant for fixing a sign in Irvington that got knocked down by a truck, and he's short of personnel, I realize that, but he still got it replaced, and I do appreciate it very much.
Well, I'm just very sorry that it turned out, the way it did.
The sign was laying there every day except the day you were going to fix it. Somebody took it. I don't know who.
It happens.
But anyhow, thank you.
And I know of, several issues that y'all have, and we're working on them and all.
I would like to say also to Mr. Brown, he is very responsive.
Yes.
I've called him 3 times in the last 2 weeks from that, I guess starting with that rain we had and everything flooding down there. Up until this week, I've called him twice, and he's taking care of the matters, right then. So, in fact, when it rained, he was out of town. But it wasn't long before I saw a VDOT truck going down the road there, and water was standing up this high. But you all are doing a good job, and I really appreciate your being responsive to our calls.
Thank you, and I will pass it on.
Yes.
I don't know if they've contacted VDOT yet, but several businesses in Whitestone have contacted me about the exiting from their properties basically onto the road. It's like the edge of the road and the curb there is kind of like decomposing. And it's really like the cars are basically grinding out as they try to get out of those businesses there past 7-Eleven.
Okay, I talked to Patrick this week. He didn't say anything about that, about some other issues, but I'll check on it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. Y'all have a good evening.
Okay. Broadband Authority. Good evening.
Michelle Craddock with the Broadband Authority. I want to apologize that I had to attend the working session that we had last month telephonically, and so I wasn't able to really participate, and I apologize for that, but I think the other directors did a good job of answering your questions. We did revise the memo and business plan to address Chairman Palin's request that we specifically mention fiber, and Cassie Thompson sent that revised memo and business plan to you, and we added specific sections in both the memo and the business plan to state that we will endeavor to provide all fiber to all residents. And that will certainly be the goal, because that is the state of the art. And we think we're going to be able to achieve that with the public-private partnership, definitely with APB. And we think over time, some of the market forces will help encourage that change over to fiber over time as well. But we certainly agree with your statement, and I'd like to add, and if I was at that meeting, I specifically added a point in the memo that the purpose of the memo was to provide a framework for discussion with you. So I'm glad that that discussion even though it was a difficult one, was had. And we certainly have the same goals and aspirations for the county with you, and we're on the same page. So we invite your collaboration and your comments at any time. Do you have any questions on those changes?
I don't, and I thank you for adding them in, the things that I requested. Dr. Westbrook? Gentlemen? Mr. Larson, you have any questions, statements? Okay.
And then as far as just other updates go, we received a forwarded invitation from Mr. Gill, and perhaps you've seen it, but it came in pretty late today. The Dominion Energy is going to have a project launch event on July 8th for the Northern Neck Rural Broadband Partnership. And attendance will be Dominion, APB, Northern Neck Electric Cooperative, the local counties, and the governor will be the special guest. And with respect to the APB project, I'm happy to say that APB did a survey to check the LCBA's data on the number of unserved homes, because we actually had more unserved homes that we identified as unserved than APB had. And they confirmed that our data was correct.
Okay.
We're also moving forward with the VATI grant project with the Atlantic Broadband and the other neighboring counties. The status of that is the regional team is working on a project management plan, and the plan's due July 14th. And the Department of Housing and Community Development will provide us with a draft contract that we'll negotiate after that. Do you have any other questions?
No, not at this time. No.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation and what you all are doing.
Thank
All
you.
right, good. Okay, this time we move into the public hearing. And again, for a public hearing, each person would have 5 minutes. You get up and you state your name and the district that you're from, that you're in, and I will give you the 1-minute warning sign. All right, but before we get started here, let's see. We have application for change of zoning district classification. Mr. Brian Barnes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. This request for rezoning comes to you. It's regarding a property that's 0.582 acres. It is currently zoned C1. It's just a few hundred feet from us where we are now, just down the road here across from the Grace Church. As you saw in your packet, this item went to the Planning Commission last month for consideration. The Planning Commission has recommended to you approval for this request. It's 6-0. This applicant came to county staff some time ago with the interest that they were selling the property, and folks who wanted to purchase the property wanted to actually live in the dwelling that's on site, even though it's C1. If you have a C1 parcel, you cannot reside in that parcel unless it was a prior non-conforming use, which in this case it was not. When staff looked for a resolution to that issue, we found language within the R4 zoning language that allows someone to have a business and have an apartment above and possibly live above their business below, or lease the space above them. What you think of as traditional mixed use. We also have that in our rural village overlay, and it's kind of an older idea that we frankly see returning a bit with folks wanting to live and work in maybe not the exact same space, but a space that adjoins. So with that, the applicant has requested this rezoning to R4, and as you see in your packet, there was no significant opposition at the Planning Commission. I believe the applicant is here as well as the contract purchaser. They may wish to speak to you or not. And that was all I had. This is a very simple request.
All right, thank you. Ms. Huntsman? Okay, you mind coming forward, please? Good afternoon. Okay. I've read your zoning, your rezoning request and so on, and I read the statement that was made at the planning commission. You're interested in selling the home, and the person interested in buying is to use it for which?
A residence.
Just residents only?
At the moment,
At the
yes.
moment? Okay. That's the part I want to clear it up, because I'm listening to, reading, it says resident purposes only.
Right,
And then
and
I'm noticing,
he's here too.
Okay.
He and his family are going to live in the property. The opportunity, given the location, I think moving forward with cottage industries and hopefully revitalization of the area, whatever Lancaster County intends to do, having the R4 zoning versus just simply residential allows some flexibility moving forward with a permitted use that entails, one of the prior purchasing interests was a potter who wanted to have a little pottery shop and live upstairs. And once he found that he was unable to actually do that, the interest subsided.
okay.
So the current purchaser and his family plan to live there. I don't know whether they have future plans to try to use it in any sort of,
Okay.
commercial use at
Yeah.
all. But at least this zoning allows flexibility within that group of homes and in that area that is transitional kind of anyway.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right. Sir?
Any other
If I can talk with the gentleman? Mike, thank you, sir. If you don't mind, what's your purpose for this? I know it's residential. Do you have future plans?
Currently, it's just residential. We don't know what the future holds. We are previously, business owners, and my wife is, well, I currently am too, but my wife is a current business owner, and, it's not in the plan at the moment, but like I said, we don't know what the future holds, and
Okay.
it's a good possibility for, something small.
Okay, thank you. All right, good. Gentlemen, y'all have any questions or statement before I open this up? No. Okay. All right, I'm opening this up.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I'm opening this up to the public. All right, for comments. Any comments from the public? All right, hearing no comments. Any comments online? So raise your hand. None. All right, no comments. The public hearing is closed. All right, I just asked those questions. I don't have a problem with zoning to R, or what is it, C4? R4. Yeah, R4. I don't have a problem with that, but I wanted to know, and because I was reading what you said before, and so on, I want to be clear on what you're doing and what you're planning on doing, and so on. All right, gentlemen, I move that we request the zoning request from C1 to R4. All right. All in favor?
We
Okay.
approve the zoning request.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. All right, all in favor of the zoning request be approved, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Jack? Like Jack is offline. All right, so. I'm gonna move on because we got the majority anyway. So that's if 4, Jack's offline, so, all right, so let's move on to the next one. Consideration of revoking a conditional use permit. Mr. Brian Barnes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This issue will involve two hearings that you must take, or two separate actions, rather, involving, they however involve the same piece of land. And what you are considering is the revocation of two separate items of county authorization, one that was taken in 1991 and one that was taken in 1993. I have not done this during my time with the county, but I understand that it does happen where when conditions are violated by someone who holds either a conditional use permit or a special exception, the county can take steps to revoke that authorization. That is the purpose for this process now. You have in your memo packet the data for the April 25th, 1991 Lancaster County Board of Supervisors hearing pursuant to the conditional use permit. In the conditional use permit language, a motion was made to approve a conditional use permit for Theodore Fisher and Sons to be limited to storing inert demolition debris, defined as concrete, mortar, and bricks, to be stored above ground. And also the material is not to be stored higher than the original grade of the land and will be limited to the 4.3 acre parcel, which is 34-7. And there should be a 25-foot setback. That was a motion passed by a 5-0 vote. As I show you in my packet, the conditions have been violated and were violated quite some time ago. In 2019, in May 2019, you have a copy of the notice of violation the county staff sent to Theodore Fisher and Sons in regard to this and other parcels in that complex that were storing solid waste. Not just in defiance of the solid waste ordinance, but also in defiance of this conditional use permit, where the demolition debris was to be stored just above ground and ideally to be reused. There was discussion of it to be reused. The 1993 special exception regarding wood chipping and burning was issued on October 28, 1993. That was in order to facilitate the possibility that Theodore Fisher and Sons would become the chipping contractor for the county. As you guys are aware, that was the time that the Lara dump was being closed off of Lara Road, and it was clear to the county that the solid waste stream tonnage would be greatly reduced by taking the wood debris, people's lawn clippings, waste, limbs, tree debris, that sort of thing, and having a chipping operation set up to facilitate that. In order to accommodate that, this request went forward. At that time, the county had switched from a conditional use permit process to a special exception process, and so that's why this item of authorization is actually a special exception, whereas the previous one is conditional use permit. Same property, this is tax map 34-7, that same A2 zone 4 acre parcel. This item was approved 4-1 by the Board of Supervisors, and one of the conditions was that there should be no burning. The wood was to be chipped to be reused for mulch, and there was to be no burning. As I've provided to you evidence from the county, from county staff, that violation, that provision has also been violated, as well as the solid waste ordinance. So for that reason, on these two items, county staff have brought this to you and process this as a public hearing. The adjacent property owners have been notified. Basically, this is like a special exception process, kind of in reverse, whereby the item is already approved. The county needs to give the applicant the opportunity to contest or to speak if they agree or disagree with the revocation of this authorization. The property is currently being used or was being used up until very recently as a sand pit, a sand mine. These two items of authorization have nothing to do with sand mining whatsoever. Revoking the CUP and the SE does not take away the mining license. The mining license comes from the Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy, and the county is not able to unilaterally revoke that. It also does not clean up the solid waste on the site. I just want to make that clear that I think personally revoking these two items removes that ambiguity. If this property is sold, the next property owner, since these two items would run with the land, the next owner, whoever that might be, there would be no ambiguity where that property owner could say, oh, well, there's an old special exception where we can dump wood debris here or whatever. Taking these two actions would start with a clean slate on this particular parcel. I have provided you with some extra information tonight that has come to us in the office this week, and that includes some pictures of the site. There's some adjacent property owner information that you have from the parcel immediately to the north. And you have that before you. There are some staff notes in there. I did receive one phone call from a member of the public this week in a phone call, and I just made some notes on what that person's comments were. I don't know if they'll be here tonight or if they'll be available on the phone, but I did want to provide you with those notes. Staff did visit the site yesterday with the Department of Environmental Quality and the Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy, and one of the family members of the property owner. There are 4 property owners. One of the property owners was with us yesterday. The first page of this supplemental package I gave you, if you'll look at it, shows you the Lancaster County GIS tax map parcels laid over top of an aerial photo. And if you see, if you kind of hold it upright where the numbers are right side up, you'll see the parcel in question for these 2 hearings is 34-7. It's down there way at the bottom. You can see in this aerial photo some dumping, although the date of the photo is 2017, and having been to the site yesterday, the dumping on that site is much more extensive than what you see in 2017. So sometime between 2017 and the present date,
No,
there was...
let's try the phone. I keep cutting in and out here, and that's how I'm, that my vote wasn't picked up. So let's try the phone.
All right, mute your computer. Mute your computer.
Ask him what his vote was so we can be recorded.
Just for the audience's benefit, Mr. Larson is having problems with his computer connection where he is. So he's going to continue the meeting on his phone. I'm going to put him on speakerphone on my phone. And he wanted me to know that his vote on the first public hearing was aye.
All right, good.
Technology's great.
So Jackie, can you hear me now?
Okay. I hope he can hear me, but that's all right. So as you look at those photos, it may be helpful. I thought it would be helpful for you all. And I'll say this also for the public's information, if you're listening. The GIS, we call it a tool in the staff office. The GIS is fairly accurate, the lines on it, but it is not a survey. So this is just something that you guys can look at to see where the parcel is in relation to the other properties that are a part of that notice of violation. We're only talking about 34-7 at this time, and we're only talking about the 2 items of special authorization that were granted in 1991 and 1993. The cleanup is a separate issue, but it is connected. Behind that, you have some pictures taken of just the site in question yesterday and the other notes that I have for you. Gentlemen, that was all I had. If you have any questions of me.
Okay, gentlemen, any questions, statements before opening up for public hearing? Okay, all right. The public hearing is now open for the consideration of revoking a conditional use permit. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, are you going to one public hearing for both 2 and 3, or are you going to take?
Just one at a time.
Okay.
You're
Thank you.
going to hold a concurrent public hearing and then 2 separate votes, correct?
You want to do that?
That's whatever the chair wants. I've learned.
Okay, all right.
I mean, they're very related. You do need 2 separate votes, but,
So we're going, okay, so we're going to listen to the revoking of the conditional use permit and the special exception.
I would suggest holding a concurrent public hearing for
I
both.
agree.
And then vote separately on it.
I got you. All right. Yeah, because I'm sure the comments going to flow over. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Hello, gentlemen. My name is David Cheek, and I live at 226 Old Mill Cove Road in Irvington. And 30 years ago, I was mayor of Irvington. 30 years ago, I brought a contingency of concerned citizens from Irvington here to the courthouse. And we were here to listen to a permit that was applied by the Fisher Pan family, which is stated as storage of inert demolition debris. And we came at that time, and I believe Ms. Barrick was the chairman of the board. and they were considering the CUP. We were against that CUP. A lot of us in Irvington who lived there many years have seen that site turn into a trash dump before 1991. We saw it as a county dump up there, and we saw kitchen appliances, building materials, oil, drums, tires, you name it. It was on that property. And thanks to many people, and especially Jack Larson, he had that property cleaned up. So when we came that night in 1991, we were against it for two reasons. We were against that cut because of, number one, the close proximity of that sand pit to the tidal waters of Old Mill Cove. It is a short throw, a short left-handed throw from that pit to the water. And we have seen that dam blow out. We have seen seepage from the pond. We've seen all manner of debris. And we thought it was a bad idea to allow the family to have demolition materials put up there. We also thought that it may reoccur again, and that was why we didn't want to have it. Well, history has repeated itself. 30 years later, we see the same thing up there. We see building material, tires, fiberglass boats, you name it. It's been dumped up there. We would like to see the Fishers have their business ongoing if they do it in a proper manner. But history doesn't say that. The Fisher family has not been good stewards of their land, and they have abused their property. And for that reason, I request the board take a first step in cleaning up the property by revoking the CUP. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, y'all.
Good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, Mal Ranson and Drew back there. How y'all doing? All right. I've been knowing Mal a long time. Okay. We had our ups and downs. This won't take long. But my grandfather started my business, this ain't gonna take long, 1932, sand and gravel business for his family and all. He used to deliver wood real quick to people, and people needed sand to fix their driveway. Then we're going back to 1932. So that's how it all started. And then here lately, Kilmarnock High School, before they integrated, needed a place to put the school. And then they came to my father and all, and in Lancaster County made up some kind of waiver to put the school down in the pit and all. But now, everybody's hollering at me, and I guess got an amnesia. But, I've already carried 3 loads over to Waste Management, and them loads are running right around $300 a piece. But the school is about asbestos. And, I don't know what they ever cost. It might cost, $500 to $1 million to clean that up. But, I just don't look like all that responsibility should be thrown back on me. And so then, I'll tell you real quick. We had a bad tornado. I think it was Tornado Camille come through. And it blew the pond out. And it blew the pond right out. I ain't got nothing against Brian Barnes. But yesterday, Brian, I couldn't figure why they didn't want me to fix the pond back. But I got it fixed back. But Brian Barnes said yesterday they didn't want me to fix the pond back. But the pond is back. But the pond cost me like $20,000 to put it back. We had to use state specification. They had to get the pipe, they had to get the concrete, they had to get the concrete cloth and everything. The Division of Mineral Miners had control of it, and that's the only reason why the pond is back. I could never figure why they didn't want to put the pond back. But the pond is back, and the people from all Lancaster County, Northumberland County, Middlesex, all over the community go down and fish in that pond. And it's got good fishing there. Y'all welcome to go down there too, because it's back. That gives revenue to the county. I mean, people come from everywhere just have a place to fish. So in 2017, everybody's on me, but contractors were carrying stuff in the pit and all, and they said Mal Ransom was hauling in it too, And his brother was Randy Ransom. he was the mayor of Irvington, and they were carrying stuff in the 10-wheelers and all, and, and dumping in the pit and all. If he had said, if anybody, I just didn't know, tell you the God's truth. And, all the contractors too. So, it was all kinds of stuff, and one load, God, the funny thing, just one day I was coming in to pick up me and another man, and this is the truth now, Ranson was coming in with a load of stuff on there. And he thought I was one of the Division of Mining people. He tried to turn the truck around real fast. But then when he saw the boy with me had an accident, and he had rented a new pickup. And see, he thought it was Paul Sanders and Paul Grizzle, they're the Division of Mining people. And so, he turned around and carried the load on in there. But when he dumped it off, it had an awful smell. And I said, what's in that smell and all? And he said, and this is the truth, he said, some kind of old station. I guess it was gas and diesel fuel mixed. And then, and that's 2017. And then I was down there, and it had nothing been dumped in there in 2.5 years. And that is the God's truth. Nothing has been dumped in that pit in 2.5 years. I was trying to clean it up and all to, someone had so much stuff to kill the waste management. But I had separated, but the fire got over to where that station was. It was like an old station or so. I don't look, I can remember back in 2017. I got paper. It was by the grace of God I wrote it down. Back then I found that old tablet that hadn't thrown today, and I got every load that went in during that time. So but he wasn't the only one. Chesapeake Land Ridge, John Hathaway had done back then, all the contracts. Why didn't Brian Barnes come stop him then? Okay, why did Brian Barnes stop him then? I don't know why he let him keep on hauling. And then now Mel Ranson is going to buy 34-7. He's going to buy 34-7 because he's going to terrorize my family, my aunt Theodore's sister, Theodore's daughters. They live in New Jersey. They're in their 80s. He done called them and scared them to death. And they got letters from Brian Barnes and scared them to death. They're going to sell him that part of the land. But Mel Ranson needs that part of the land because he can't get a mining permit from the county from y'all. So if he buy that half of that pit buy that 34-7 from me, he gets a mining permit. Because he won't get half of my mining permit. And it acts like, it just acts like, it acts like Brian Barnes on Mel Ranson's side. He's hard on me. And, I'm just doing the best I can. I certainly thank you, Mr. Perry.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, could the speaker identify himself?
Oh, yes.
Eric Fisher, my name is Eric Fisher.
Okay.
Y'all have a good day. Good evening.
All right. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Drew Ranson. I represent the Ranson family, Ranson Nursery. We have bought sand in the past from that mine and hauled it out of there. We own a mine ourselves, which is in excellent condition. We keep it clean. We just mine sand out of it. We don't do any dumping. We take all of our trash debris to BFI in Republic. And we have load tickets for all the trash and debris that we take out, and we've had them over the years, and we pretty good at keeping things cleaned up, and we don't haul trash around here and dump. I don't know what he's talking about with that, but we have mined sand out of there, and that's what it's there for, and we would like to mine sand in the future, but that's part of what it's for. We have a mining permit to do that, so I just wanted to clear the air on that. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Thomas Campbell. I just wanted to stand clear because I really don't know where my property is there. I do have property there, and my name is the last name on here. And but I've never did anything with the property, and now it's going through all these changes. So I would like to know where my property is. If I have to get somebody to mark it out, then I will. But as of now, I mean, I just been hearing things that this sounds kind of bad.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Barnes, can you clear that up?
Yeah, yeah. Your property is right in here. That's all it is. This is the property we're talking about. That's all. Now, that's not a survey, that's how the county, this is just what's called a county tax map. So it's an approximation, but you're in there somewhere.
All right. Anyone else? Thank you, sir. All right. Anyone else? Okay, at this point, then we consider the public. Oh, online. Anybody online that wants to comment, please raise your hand so we can see you. Okay. All right. No further comments, and consider this public hearing now closed. All right. So, gentlemen, do you have any comments before we go to a vote?
Mr. Chairman, I want to make a statement because I want to make sure Mr. Fisher is clear here. The property that we're talking about is the Fisher property. And regardless whether you know or don't know somebody's hauling in it, it's still your property. And you're still responsible, just like I'm responsible. Somebody could come dump something in my field or something like that, and I'm still responsible for it because they dumped it on my property. So having trucks going in and out and all that, it still is your responsibility. And the Fishers, I knew the whole family, so Mr. Fisher back there when he started the business and all that, but it was kind of a different business, I can tell you that, because I was brought up in fishing. Mr. Theodore Fisher was running it. It was quite different, but I want to get the point across that people going in and dumping and doing all that is still your responsibility of who's dumping and what's being dumped on there, and it's your responsibility to stop it if it's illegal dumping and things like that. You can't get around that. You just can't. You can't get around it. It was your property. So the conditions was violated, whether knowingly or unknowingly, knowing by you, because your uncle, he's there, but your aunts and things, they up in New Jersey, they don't know what's going on. So I want to make sure that you understand it's the property owner's responsibility to keep the property clean and the conditions that were set forth back years ago by the Alder Board, that those conditions are adhered to. So that's what I want to say, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Yes, sir.
The purpose of these public hearings is strictly for the conditional use permit and the special exception permit, the revocation of both of those. But beyond that, I'm hopeful that we're going to work together with the town of Irvington to clean up these dump sites. Now, that's a different meeting, a separate thing, and things have to evolve, but I want it to be on the public record that it is a concern for not only the town and the county, that ought to be a concern for the state, because some of this stuff is leaching into the ground, it's leaching into the water, and when you burn stuff that's noxious, it gets into the air that we all breathe. So we need to do what we can do to clean this up and make sure that someone cleans it up and make sure it doesn't happen again. So that's separate from this, but I think it's appropriate since the town of Irvington is in District 5, as well as part of this parcel is in District 5. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion if I could, if
Yes,
you're
sir.
ready. I move that we revoke the conditional use permit for the storage of inert demolition debris on tax map 34-7.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. All right, Jack said aye. Mr. Larson said aye. Okay. All right, I entertain the second one.
May I make another motion?
Yes, sir.
I move that we revoke the special exception permit for the Stump Brush Scrap Wood Shipping Facility on tax map 34-7.
You've heard the motion. All in favor said aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Mr. Larson, aye. Okay. I have a question. All right. I'm understanding, I believe it's Mal Ransom is purchasing this property. All right. Now, and I also understand that, it's my understanding that he has agreed to do the cleanup with it as well? Okay, all right, good, all right. Okay, so let's move on then.
But may I ask a question?
Yes.
Legal counsel?
Yes.
Will we have an ability to monitor and verify the cleanup in a
Mr.
reasonable
Barnes
amount of
will-
time?
Mr. Barnes will work with Mr. Ranson on that and monitor it.
Yeah, Mr. Ranson and I have had some conversations. Once he presented that letter from the family saying that they were contracted to sell it to him, I said, well, you know, and he's aware of this. I said, you know that the notice of violation will still apply to this land that you're buying? Yes, and I, you know, so he has assured me that he'll allow us to enter and look at the load tickets and make sure that it goes to a proper landfill.
And that would apply to the town of Irvington also?
That will just apply to the parcel he
Well, he's
buys
shaking
as
his
far as
head no.
his cooperation.
We can only enforce our ordinance.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but somehow we need to have a joint effort here, since the line delineating the two responsibilities, we don't know where that is exactly. We have a GIS, but the fact of the matter is, it's very likely that some of this dumping is taking place on property that's in the town's purview that we have nothing to say about. So I'm throwing out there again publicly that I would want a joint effort at least, and cooperation from the new owner to clean up all the dump sites, no matter where they are along that line. And he's shaking his head no. Anyhow, I said what I wanted to say.
Come forward, sir. Yes.
I'm willing to clean up 34/7. And I'm having a survey done. They're doing the research tomorrow because it's no plot. And I should have a survey by the first week of July. And I'm willing to clean up what I'm buying. But the other two parcels, which are in the town of Irvington, are owned by,
Well, other people.
Eric's aunt. And I contracted to buy them, but I canceled it because it's so much mess there. And I'm an adjacent landowner now. In the meantime, when I had my survey done for purchasing of Paul Neff's property, the Fishers had crossed the line 170 feet, which Mal Curley, Sherry Neff Curley, did not know that had happened. So I inherited trash on that piece. And EDA did my survey, and it's all marked. And like I say, they're gonna do this southern section in the next week, and I would like to talk to Mr. Campbell about his situation too. Because if my crew is in there surveying, possibly I could help you out, get yours surveyed, so you'll know where it is. It seems to be a lot of discrepancy of who owns what, where the lines are, where the pond is, you know, who owns the pond, who don't own the pond. Some say it's bigger than it's supposed to be. I've been going down in that pit probably 50 years. And I've been in business. Mr. Fish and I worked together. O'Neill was a good friend of mine. And truthfully, I really never carried any trash in there. I hauled dirt over there, sand. But that's what I did. I had my own place to put my trash. And some of the board members know where that is, and they've been up there and looked at it. I recycle it. I grind all my concrete, asphalt, and brick And we had a chipper come in last year, and we chipped up everything and piled it up. And the county ought to really realize that we need to do more of that recycling to keep green. And I'm willing to go the extra mile, but I don't feel, Mr. Westbrook, that I need to clean up somebody else's problem.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments from the board? We heard you, sir. We moving along now. Okay, thank you, Mr. Fisher. Thank you. All right, okay. All right, let's move on. Mr. Brian Barnes, your consideration of utility scale
Yes, sir.
solar?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This public hearing is for the consideration of the adoption of a utility-scale solar revenue sharing ordinance. Okay,
All right.
sorry about that, gentlemen.
That's okay, good. Thank you.
That seems to happen. This item, as you all are aware, will be the final item with the adoption and the July 1st activation of your utility-scale solar ordinance. This item would allow you to take advantage of a state code provision for revenue sharing with the megawattage rating of solar facilities. That fee right now is $1,400 a megawatt, and as I show you in your memo, for a 100 megawatt facility, that would be an annual payment of $140,000 to the county treasurer. By adopting this statute, this did not have to go to the Planning Commission because it's going to more than likely go within your code of ordinances, and it directly references the state code there in the front. We have a draft ordinance that has been advertised online for 2 weeks. It was slightly tweaked from the model ordinance a little bit because we don't have any previously authorized solar facilities that would have applied anyway. We took that part out. So this will be a forward-looking ordinance and will apply from here on out. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, gentlemen?
I just have, this is a separate revenue from the siting agreements, correct?
Correct, yes. This is more in line with an actual ongoing tax, for lack of a better word, whereas the siting agreements are based upon the approval process and are kind of on the front side and then they taper off. This would be ongoing foreseeably for the life of the project unless state code drastically
But
changes.
on the siting agreement, though, you have the option, though, to take it one time or spread it out, right?
That is correct, yes,
Okay.
sir. Yep.
This revenue share takes the place of the machinery and tools tax. You still collect real estate tax.
Right.
But this takes the place of the machinery and tools tax, which diminishes over time through depreciation, as well as exemptions from the state. The county will realize more revenue through this revenue sharing ordinance than it will through machinery and tools tax.
Okay. Gentlemen, if y'all don't have any further statements or questions, I'm opening up the floor to a public hearing. The public hearing to the floor. Any comments from the floor? Any statements from the floor? Yes, sir.
Same person. The item, the tax, says up to 1,400 megawatts. $1,400 per megawatt, up to. Is there a plan to take less than? And there's other areas, in fact, in the write-up here, it has the same thing of up to 1,400 per megawatt on solar energy projects.
May I answer that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The statute allows us to charge up to $1,400 per megawatt. We are imposing the maximum of $1,400 per megawatt in paragraph, section 3A. The county hereby imposes a revenue share to be assessed at a rate of $1,400 per megawatt.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, does that, Dominion Energy in their write-up about the Murray Point Solar, which I love the fact it's Murray Point, it says 100 megawatt facility and will include up to an additional 50 megawatts of energy storage. Are you going to be charging them on the 100 and on the 50? So it will be the 140,000
It says-
plus 70,000?
The statute said, the ordinance says, the county hereby imposes a revenue share to be assessed at a rate of $1,400 per megawatt on any solar photovoltaic energy project or energy storage system.
Right. So it is going to be,
Combined.
even though we're all together in one project,
Yeah.
because the ordinance that we have for solar is for energy generation and storage.
Or storage.
No, it says and storage. We
I think
changed
we
it,
changed
remember?
it.
That's right, yes.
We changed
Yeah.
it to
To
and.
Ann, yeah.
And
You're right.
Yes.
it was supposed to be for the storage of the energy generated from that.
From the facility.
Yeah. So I just want to be sure it's clear and we get it into the minutes or our understanding here that it's going to be
150.
maybe 150. And both items get charged, and it's true no matter where. And while I'm, Dominion, we're going to have that thing, open house next week to go to up at the high school. But I understand Open Roads had their open house tonight while we're here. So none of us can
It
attend
was from 3 to 6.
None of you
It was
know
from
about it.
3 to
It was
6.
3 to 6.
Huh?
It was from 3 to 6.
3 to 6.
Yeah.
Where was the announcement?
I don't know, I got it,
I got it.
I didn't get it. I didn't know about it. I asked about it.
because they wanted the public to be there.
They wanted the public to be
They
there.
sure did.
They didn't put it in the paper or anything else.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, any further comments from the public? If not, okay, if not, I consider the public, on, anybody online, electronically? Oh, that's what that is. Okay, then I could declare the public hearing now closed. All right, gentlemen, what's your,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the revenue sharing ordinance.
you've heard the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Okay, the ayes have it.
We didn't really have a discussion on the motion.
Well, you, all right, go ahead.
I
make
guess
your
I should
discussion.
have. No, I just want to go on record as saying that I'm opposed to a blanket approval of solar. I've said that before. I think it ought to only be on unarable land. But since we've decided as a group that we're going to prostitute ourselves, at least we get the most money. So that's what this is.
All right, sir. I like your choice of words.
Well, it's what it is.
Jack, can you hear me?
I think he voted nay.
Did you vote on that revenue share ordinance?
Yes, I did. I voted A.
Aye, okay. We couldn't hear it. Okay.
Okay, all right, thanks. All right. Okay, let's move on. Consideration of adding Article 6, cigarette tax. Gill?
Mr. Chairman, that's actually Article 11, cigarette tax, Section 62-300, to the Lancaster County Code of Ordinances to authorize the levy of taxes upon the sale or use of cigarettes in the portions of the county of Lancaster outside of the corporate limits of the towns within the county. You'll remember that at your March 25th meeting this year, you directed staff to prepare an ordinance to levy the cigarette tax. Mr. Cornwell drafted such an ordinance. At that time, when we had that meeting, we were only looking at 3 jurisdictions being in the regional tax board. It was Lancaster, Westmoreland, and the town of Montrose. Since that time, we've had 4 other jurisdictions join in with this. We've got the counties of Middlesex and Essex, and the towns of Colonial Beach and Urbana. The original 3 were in position to have everything done and be effective July 1. The 4 additional jurisdictions couldn't get their public hearings all done in June. They're doing them in July. And so this ordinance, it'll be effective July 1 if you choose to pass it. However, the actual taxation of cigarettes, according to the state, is better to have all of the jurisdictions together starting at one time, which will be August 1st instead of July 1st, because we have all 7 jurisdictions now. The proposed tax rate is 40 cents per pack. From previous discussions, you know that the maximum estimated revenue that Lancaster could expect annually from this tax is approximately $65,000. This ordinance has been advertised as required by law, and I have had no response except for a letter of opposition by NATO, and that's not the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It's the National Association of Tobacco Outfitters. So, that's what it was, I think. Yeah. So they have opposed it, but other than that, I've had no response from the public.
Don, can 5 and 6 be held in the same public hearing again?
I think we can do concurrent.
Well, separate votes, yes.
Separate votes, yes.
Let me make a comment, if I could, Mr. Chairman. Since the Commonwealth of Virginia was founded, for whatever reason they thought appropriate, cities, towns, and counties have had separate taxing powers, and separate powers, so to speak. The cigarette tax has always been available to cities. And I think I'm not sure if it's always been available to towns, but it's been available to towns for quite some time. The push has always been to try to make the 3 governmental bodies equal in power. And this is one of the steps to try to do that so that counties could have the same revenue sources that cities and towns enjoy. And that's why we don't have a cigarette tax. Right. I don't know whether Irvington and Kilmarnock, I think Kilmarnock
and Whitestone.
Taxes everything they can possibly tax.
Okay.
Irvington does not.
All right, well, this is whether you agree to a tax or not, but this is an effort to level the playing field among the jurisdictions.
And I will say to that VACO takes a lot of credit for getting that work done for equal taxation, because that was one of the initiatives we worked on hard for probably a decade.
Mm-hmm. But the maximum anticipated revenue does not take into account the administrative fee that we have to pay to administer this, which is what percentage?
5%. Well, it depends on how much people smoke, too.
No, the percentage stays the same.
I know, but, I mean, the 65,000 was based on a certain number of packs per person.
It's sold in the county only, not the towns.
That's correct.
The towns still get theirs.
Yeah.
So you want to buy a pack of cigarettes, you go to Northumberland.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Okay. All right, any further comments? All right, okay, I'm gonna open up the public hearing here for the proposed cigarette tax ordinance and also the approval of the joint operating jointly together. All right, public hearing is now open. Any comments? No comments. Any comments electronically? All right, no comments. Public hearing now closed. Okay, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the proposed cigarettes tax ordinance be approved.
All right, you've heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Discussion?
Okay, all right.
Well, I'm just going to prove that I'm losing my mind as I get older, but I voted to allow the staff to look into this, to have the ordinance. But quite frankly, I think this is a regressive tax. I agree with that. I think more, I'm probably going to be hoisted on somebody's petard, but I think that more people of lower income smoke than people of average or greater income. That could be wrong, certainly, but I think the tax just adds on to the people who are already having some issues of how to spend their money. Now, I will say, I was a long time cigarette addict. I smoked for years and years, and I always said, if my house caught on fire, the first thing I'm grabbing is a pack of cigarettes and my lighter, and the second thing I'm grabbing is my pair of pants before I run out of my house. It's a very strong addiction, and it's very hard to overcome. And part of the rationale when cigarette taxes started going up was that it's going to discourage people from smoking and all that. I never found that to be true because people buy what they want. They get what they want, and again, it's a very strong addiction. So I voted to bring this before the staff, but just to tell you, I'll be odd man out and not vote in favor of either one of these.
All right. Any additional comments? All right. You've heard the vote, the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Jack, Mr. Larson?
Hey, Jack, how do you vote on the cigarette tax ordinance? Aye, okay.
Okay. Aye. Okay. That's 4 ayes, 1 nay. All right. And then the other one is consideration of ordinance approving the formation of a joint entity. All right. I put that forward as a motion. Any comments? All heard the motion? All right. In favor of voting? All in favor, aye? Okay. Aye. All opposed, nay?
Nay.
All right. Jack?
You voted aye for that one as well? I did. Okay. thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Okay, 4 ayes and 1 nay. All right, let's move on, okay? Consideration of amendments of section 62-60.3. All right, Mr. Gill?
Mr. Chairman, again, at your April 1st meeting, the board directed staff to draft the necessary amendments to our existing ordinance to allow real estate devoted to forest use to be eligible for land use valuation and taxation, similar to the land use program that's in effect for farmland and has been in place since 1995. As you know, the Code of Virginia allows land use assessments on 4 categories of land: agricultural land, horticultural land, forest land, and open space land, if certain criteria are met. For forest land, it has to be at least 20 acres or more that are eligible for the reduced assessments. You know from prior meetings that there are 431 parcels of forest land in the county, totaling 29,381 acres that would qualify for the reduced assessments. You also know that we've done the math on that, and the reduction, annual reduction in tax revenue would be roughly $191,000 if this is approved. The Code of Virginia says you have to have an ordinance in place before June 30th of the year that this would be effective. So for this to be effective for calendar year 2022, you would need to adopt this before June 30th of this year. And as we've also stated in prior meetings, the reduction in revenue will not be realized until FY23 because the revenues from the real estate tax for calendar year 22 won't be realized until November or December of 2022, which is FY23. I've drafted the amendments in this. I've had the Commissioner of Revenue look at it. We wanted to keep the applications, the processes, the timelines similar for both ag land and forest land so that any additional workload created in her office would be minimal. I think we've accomplished that. This ordinance as well has been advertised as required by law, and I've had no comment from the public.
Okay. Any comments, questions from the board before I open it up for public hearing? Okay. All right. It is now open up to the floor for public hearing. Yes, sir.
property that is going to be put into solar, I understand roughly 70% of the projects will be timberland and 30% will be farmland. If property is no longer being timbered or timber, then I would think it would not be receiving this exemption or be taxed at that level.
That's correct.
At zero. So it would be fully taxed as normal land. The same thing will apply to agricultural land use. So property that's in agricultural land use currently being exempt would revert and now be charged. That is correct?
That is correct.
Okay, just want to be sure it's available to be referred to by people
If you change the use.
later on.
If you change the use, the land
You
use.
change the use, it
cannot-
changes all of this. Right, and there's substantial timber that will be affected by this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further comments? Public hearing? Anyone online? No further comments? All right, I consider this public hearing now closed. All right, entertain the motion.
I move that we adopt the land use ordinance.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Any comments? All right, you ready for the vote? All in favor say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
I think, Jack, did you want to say something?
The only thing I want to say is I can't hear Jason at all. There's nothing coming across.
Okay.
And he's making a motion to approve, is he?
The motion was to approve the ordinance.
Did you hear that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, Jason's motion was to approve the amendments to our land use ordinance to allow forest land to be eligible for land use valuation and taxation.
Thank you, I understand now.
All right, and the four members here voted aye, and I know what your vote's going to be as well.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Mr.
Unanimous
Chairman, I
vote.
move for approval of the consensus docket.
All right, any comments? Questions? All right, you all heard the vote, motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, I'm assuming Jack voted aye on that one. All right, next one, all right. Consideration. All right,
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion for the expenditures of the month for June are as follows. Total invoices, $1,366,132.10. Total payroll, $311,560.76, for a total of $1.677,692.86, of which capital improvements were $775,425.86, and CARES funds were $5,118.50.
all right. You've heard the motion, all in favor? Are you ready to vote? Comment? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, all opposed, nay. All right, unanimous vote. Okay, number 2. Proposed revised permit. Mr. Gill.
Mr. Chairman, this is a proposal to update the permit publication fee schedule for the Department of Building and Land Use to include fees for residential and commercial solar installations and utility-scale solar special exception applications. You know, at your February meeting, you adopted a solar ordinance effective July 1. That ordinance requires all proposed utility-scale solar facilities to apply for a special exception permit. Brian and I and others have gone over how much time may be involved with reviewing such a special exception application. We've come to the realization that it would be comparable to the staff time involved with a new cell tower special exception application, and therefore have proposed the same fee of $5,000. That staff time includes researching and mailing public hearing notifications to possibly hundreds of adjoining property owners, advertisements for Board of Supervisors public hearings, comp plan 2232 reviews at the Planning Commission level if that's needed, and/or staff time negotiating siting agreements, and not to mention the staff time that would be involved with reviewing the site plans, E&S plans, and building plans associated with utility-scale solar special exception. Our building official also realized that over the past few months, we've had several solar installations on residential properties and commercial properties, businesses, that have been in the many tens of thousands of dollars. And currently, our permit fee on a job that size would only be $50. So he has suggested that we treat these solar installations on residences and businesses, commercial businesses, as a renovation project in our fee schedule and charge them the same. And you'll see on the fee schedule that it is recommended that for a residential project, solar project, it would be $50 plus $2 per $1,000 of value of the job. For a business or commercial site, it would be $50 plus $5 per $1,000 of job. That's the same fee schedule we have for renovations, and that's being proposed for that. And you'll see that the special exception fee for utility scale solar facility is suggested to be $5,000.
So is, like putting solar panels on your roof, is that a separate permitting process than, say, pulling an electrical permit?
It is. Currently, right now, it is not.
It is not currently?
Currently, right now, it's only electrical permit, $50.
And then, and so basically, the solar on your roof is by right, right?
Solar on your roof is a by right permitted use.
So why is there, so we're imposing to put a permit on that? For what purpose, other than to collect revenue?
To collect revenue on a large job. I mean, we've seen some that have been $80,000.
It's a building permit.
Yeah, and we're only collecting $50 on that $80,000 job.
But is the staff really required to do a lot of extra review or work because it's something like they need to review the engineering structure on the roof, or is this truly just a way to collect extra revenue, is what I'm trying to get at?
There's extra staff time involved, but it's a way to
Well, I think the building inspector has to.
To me, I don't want to put any more like hurdles in the way of expanding solar onto roofs. If it doesn't require staff really time, if this is an electrical permit is all that's really needed, then I don't see why we need another permit or another process.
Wouldn't the building inspector have to determine that the roof was substantially sound enough to take the weight of the solar project?
Yeah.
And that the connection, and that the connections themselves are properly made for, I mean, it's more than just getting a.
Yeah, it is more staff time involved.
Yeah.
But it's also a way of recouping a more reasonable permit fee for a larger job value.
Well, does that occur on like a house? So if I go and get a building permit for a house, whether I build $1 million home or I build a $100,000 home, the building permit's the same cost, right?
The new construction is the same. Renovation is where you'll see this proposal.
So it's identical to renovation?
It's identical to renovation.
It is renovation.
It is renovation, correct.
I see where you're going with that, and I had a hesitancy as well. Maybe up it, but I don't think that much.
Well, these would be two new permits, the residential solar and commercial solar. Currently, if someone wants to do this, it's just an electrical permit.
I have a problem with commercial, nothing about the residential.
Well, I mean, that's why it's before you all.
Well, what's not clear is where you've got this listed, because you've got building, and it's the last two things under that building, but then below that's renovations, and you just said it's a renovation, so actually, the two highlighted yellow things belong under renovations.
Well, we can make that change.
That's just a minor thing, but it clears it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I hope.
Any further comments?
Well, I mean, I see this thing both ways, but right now, if I said I'm gonna put solar panels on the roof, all I gotta do is get to pay $50.
Correct.
Is that right?
Well, unless the county administrator were to adopt a policy that it's a renovation because you're renovating your property.
Well, that's what I'm getting at though. Right now, is it a renovation? It's not a renovation.
Right now, all that's being required is an electrical permit.
Yeah.
What's a renovation permit cost?
It's identical to what's being proposed.
$50.
Yeah.
It's $50 plus.
Actually, it is a
$2
renovation,
by-
though.
It is a
$2 by
renovation.
$1,005.
Is it a renovation, though? I mean,
I need the building official here for that answer.
it's an electrical renovation.
It's an
I guess.
electrical renovation, yes.
Well,
What do you do on old houses that are added on to? Is that new construction?
No, if it's brand-new construction, it's new construction. If you're remodeling, it's renovation.
Yeah, but
If
you
you
put a
go,
brand
if you
new
go into an
addition.
old home, like my grandmother's house, and it got all that other, kind of wine in it and stuff, and I decided I want to pull all that wine out and put new wine in. All I do is get a electrical thing, right?
That you're going to get an electrical permit.
Yeah, $50.
But you're moving walls and doing other stuff like that, like loading.
But then that'd be a renovation.
That'd be renovation.
Yeah.
And if you're adding on to that old house, that's new construction. It gets complicated as,
According to Crystal, if you're expanding the footprint.
that's why she wanted to raise.
Yeah, yeah,
Keeping all this stuff straight.
yeah. I was just, trying to figure
So
out
if you're
this.
doing both, you get both
Yeah.
permits, I guess.
I'm fully in favor of the utility scale solar fee.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to impose additional hurdles to solar when I don't necessarily know that there's that much staff time being absorbed in these permitting processes, or that this really takes a lot of effort.
it was merely a suggestion from the building official.
Gentlemen, my thinking at the present time, let's deal with the solar, the commercial part and the residential, we just leave that. We can think about that later.
I would be in favor of doing the solar and just leaving the residential and the commercial off, that part of it just. 'Cause
I still think that rooftop solar should just basically get electrical permit and be by right. There should be no hurdle or no, in this case, it seems like you could deny the permit then and not allow someone to do it by having a permitting process.
No, this is just like, as long as it passes the inspections, it's by right.
Well, even a $50 fee, if you don't pay the fee, you don't get the permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you pay the fee, you get the permit.
The purpose of the permit is to make sure that whatever you do is safe for you and for the person who's going to buy it from you.
But that's
So-
where the point of the electrical permit
So,
should be.
just let me finish, if that's okay. This is a whole other realm, in my opinion. The standard electrical stuff is the wiring and the meter box and all that kind of stuff, and this is different. It is and it isn't because of the solar panels and what they do and how you treat those lines coming out. And I would expect that the staff is going to have to make sure they understand all of that before they pass the inspection. So that's an added expense also if they have to go back for more training or whatever. I think we ought to do what's suggested here personally, and if it's an issue, we'll hear about it. If someone says, I wanted to put, $1,000, I don't know what these systems cost, depending on how big your roof is, but if it costs you $1,000 and you gotta pay $52, okay. Okay. If it's $100,000, that's a different thing, but again, I think the staff looked into it. I think they came up with something that's probably very reasonable, and I think we ought to support it. And then we can always rescind it or change it in the future if there's an issue.
Let me ask a question about your staff. On this solar thing now, do they go out when it's completed? Do they go out in between times? How often do they have to visit the site on a solar installation? Do they have to visit at all?
You're talking about the residential one?
Residential, yeah.
I would say it was probably, well, usually on an electrical, you have a rough end and you have.
Yeah.
So it'd be twice.
So we do the same thing on the solar. House been there for 100 years, now we're gonna put solar in. So we would do the same thing. We would go out in the beginning and,
I would think it'd be very similar to just changing out the service panel or, going from fuses to, going out.
yeah.
Probably gonna do a special.
So would you need necessarily 2 permits then if I'm installing solar, but that's going to require connecting it into the electrical system of my house? So therefore, I then need an electrical permit too?
It would be, the inspections would be for these new permits on solar. It would not include an electrical permit with it.
They'll be
I'm
separate.
asking, would you need one? Because I'm hooking up an electrical system. Would I just go and get a solar permit, or would I need to get a solar and an electrical permit?
If all you're doing is putting panels on your home, I think all you would get would be the residential solar permit.
Yeah, but you got to hook that up to your main meter. You got to provide a way for that to augment, and probably on a residential, you got to have batteries.
Then that would,
Your electrical inspections would be underneath that.
Yeah.
We do the same thing with swimming pools and that are, heated and stuff, and if the inspections are just built in under those. If the generator is a perfect example.
Yep.
Generators need.
That would be a good example, because people putting generators in the house all the time.
They don't get a separate.
They don't get a separate.
Even though.
We don't, but well, in that case, this would be like imposing a new permit for generators. If you're installing a generator, we need a separate permit. That's kind of what this line would fall along then.
yeah.
I just don't see a need for it. I mean, it seems redundant to me, and it
Okay.
just seems all it seems to me is another way to generate revenue.
All right, I entertain a motion.
I will move that we approve the utility scale solar fee for $5,000 and leave the other ones off for now.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Any discussion?
I think we ought to do them all.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, you've heard the motion, ready to vote? Jack, got any discussion?
Jack, can you hear us?
Okay. I missed a great deal of it, but essentially there's been a discussion about the permit fees stating and whether or not that which is in the package, if you're going with that. That's about all I've been able to get on. I cannot hear, for example, I can hear Bob, and I can hear Mr. Lee. But, the other 2 board members I really can't hear, and I haven't been able to hear what Crystal had to say.
All right, well, I'll summarize the discussion for you, Jack. It was questioned whether or not the residential solar permit and the commercial solar permit were really needed, since an electrical permit was required for solar panel installation on existing structures or new structures. The analogy was made with a generator permit, which only requires an electrical permit and does not require any additional permits. And so Mr. Bellows made a motion that the proposed fee schedule be approved with the utility scale solar facility fee of $5,000 and does not include the residential or commercial solar fees. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely, I would agree with that. So if the vote's been taken, I would add an aye to that.
Okay, so, okay, we're gonna vote now. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. And Jack said aye, okay. All opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay, all right. So, all right. Okay, let's move on. All right, considerations of various supplemental appropriations. Mr. Gill?
Mr. Chairman, I put this together pretty recently. At the end of the fiscal year, I always like to go through our expenditures as of June 30 to see if any departments, overspent their budget for whatever reason, and if a supplemental appropriation is needed. I've got 10 of these on here for you. I'll go through them pretty quickly. First of all is the county administration account. I'm asking for a supplemental appropriation of $13,981. That's due to workman's comp insurance premium being over budget by $6,275, and the line of duty act insurance premium being over budget by $7,706.
I told you to stop cleaning those gutters out from the ladder.
I really don't have a whole lot of control over these insurance premiums, and even Mr. Lawson, when we were talking earlier this week or last week, he told me he wouldn't beat me up too bad over that. So, but I don't really have a whole lot of control over the insurance premium. So that's number one. Number two is the contribution to the Circuit Court Judge's Office. Circuit Court Judge's Office is in Northumberland County. I'll get a bill late August or early September from Luttrell Tadlock in Northumberland saying what our share is, and I do my best to estimate it, but I was a little bit under $117.30, so I'm asking for that. The General District Court was over by $274.31, I think mainly contributed by telecommunications was over, and I think maybe you could apply that to COVID, being the fact that the court was shut down in person for quite a while and that telecommunication fees went up. The fourth item is under the sheriff for law enforcement. It's $46,811.94, and that stems from our recently learned discrepancy. You'll remember when from the FY22 budget discussions that one full-time position was not reflected in the FY21 budget. Mr. Lawson picked up on that. That position was reflected in FY19 and prior budgets, but was removed from the FY20 and 21 budgets since it was not filled due to retirement and attrition. When we found out about that, you know, it needs to be corrected, and the total there accounts for salary plus fringe benefits. The next one is emergency medical services. Overtime and part-time were over budget, and that's due to several factors. Number one being the fact that he's operated for the entire fiscal year, being down 2 full-time positions. He's had to cover additional shifts for the volunteer rescue squads, and due to the COVID-19 pandemic, he had several employees out during the course of the year that had tested positive that had to stay out 14 days before they could return to work, and he had to cover that with overtime. He really had no choice in the matter. That's $80,247.35. The good news about that is the CARES Act money can reimburse all of that. The sheriff, next item is the sheriff corrections. That's over by $15,876.05. That's due to overtime, nurse, and food supply expenditures being over budget. Again, the COVID pandemic comes into play there, mainly for overtime and the nurse. And the food supplies, just because there's a larger number of inmates residing in the Lancaster jail now. Again, the overtime and nurse expenditures can be reimbursed with CARES funding, money. The number 7 is refuse disposal. We've had this discussion before. The overages over our budgeted amounts to waste management can be paid with CARES fund. That total for FY21, the overage amount is $93,914.31. But again, that can be taken care of with CARES money. Number 8 is the Children's Services Act. You'll remember back last May of 20, when you approved the FY21 budget, to make it simple, because we were in the height of the COVID pandemic at that time, you all decided to adopt FY20 levels for your FY21 budget. The FY20 level for CSA was $600,000. Our actuals for FY20 were over $800,000. The actuals for FY21 are going to be over $800,000. We've corrected that in the FY22 budget. We budgeted $800,000, but for FY21, the overage is $203,994.92. Number 9, Mary Ball Washington Museum and Library, very simple, $509.22. That was all electric bill being over the requested amount. And finally, you have an attachment, a memo from the school finance director, Whitney Barrett, who has documented the $419,750 that the schools received directly from the federal government in CARES funds, and they have expended it as indicated in that memo. So the total requested supplemental appropriations for FY21 is a large number. It's $875,476.40. The good news is $609,787.71 can be reimbursed with CARES money, and also $114,237.16 is reimbursed by the state because the state pays for 56% of the Children's Services Act expenses. So when you subtract those out, that leaves the local expense at $151,451.53.
Okay.
So I would ask that you approve these supplemental appropriations. They will help make our accountability very accurate when Robinson Farmer Cox comes back in October to complete their FY21 audit.
Okay, gentlemen, you've heard the presentation. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, may I comment?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Gentlemen, I think what Don has done here. Gentlemen, I think what Don has done here, the mid-year review to try and anticipate where people are going to have difficulties. The only But what we're looking for is the fact of life increases that cost administrators can't control themselves. And where those are there, then it's entirely proper, I think, to give them a supplemental appropriation. But at the same time, we are looking at these and we're not simply accepting the fact that people run over their appropriated amount. So it's a good effort that's put in here. It's not just simply housekeeping or trying to line everything up for the auditor. It's a very valid effort, and I applaud Don for going to the detail that he has.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move for approval of these supplemental appropriations.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Any comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Okay, unanimous. Okay? All right.
Yes, sir, we did.
All right. Mr. Gill, consideration of requesting American Rescue Plan funds?
Mr. Chairman, the 2021 version of CARES Act money is called the American Rescue Plan. We've talked a little bit about this in the past. Lancaster is expected to receive $2,059,508 in ARP funds. It's going to be handled a little bit different than the CARES money. You'll remember the CARES money last year went from the federal government to the states, and then from the states to the county, and the county had to give a proportionate share based on population to the towns. This ARP money coming to the counties is going to come directly from the federal government. So we will not be entering into a certification agreement with the state as we did with the CARES money. We'll be entering into an agreement with the federal government for our share of this money. We also will not have to distribute our portion to the towns because the American Rescue Plan money for the towns is going through the states, and the towns would request their share from the states. So the way the ARP funding is set up, we would get one half this year whenever it's requested, and then the other half 1 year after that first half is received. And
Calendar year? Calendar?
no, it's the fiscal. No, not fiscal year. You're going to get it 12 months after you get the first one. So if we get a $1 million plus check sometime in July, we'll get the other $1 million July of 2022.
Right. So it's next fiscal year.
Yeah, well, and you know, I really didn't want this ARP money in FY21. I'd rather have it in FY22 to try to keep it, you know, separate from the CARES money that came previously. So the point of me putting this on here is just to get you all on record authorizing me to request this money from the federal government.
Okay. Well, I move.
I make a motion that you request it.
Okay. All right, any additional comments? All right, you've heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Jack, do you want us to request the American Rescue Plan funding?
Okay.
Okay, so unanimous, okay. All right. Any board reports? Any board reports? All right, county administrator report.
I believe Mr. Lawson had an appointment under board reports. Jack, did you have an appointment you wanted to make?
I do have. It's my pleasure to appoint Eunice Hopkins to fill the vacant position for District 1 on the Social Services Board.
Okay. Y'all have heard the appointment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, unanimous. Okay, thank you, sir. All right. Mr. Gill?
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I have under County Administrator Report is Chief Smith, Matt Smith, emailed me today a declaration of rescission for the local emergency for Lancaster for the COVID-19 pandemic. The state declaration of emergency will expire on June 30th. And so I believe it's prudent for us to rescind our local declaration of emergency, and we could do that effective tonight with your vote. And he sent me this by email earlier today, so, and he's asking, and I am as well, that you go ahead and vote to rescind the local declaration tonight.
Okay, I'll put that motion on the floor. Any comments, questions? All right. All in favor of rescinding the motion? Rescinding. All right, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all, okay.
Jack, did you hear that?
I did.
And are you in favor of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good.
All right.
All right, thank you.
That's all I had under County Administrator Report.
All right, gentlemen, any additional things? All right, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All right, all in favor of the motion to adjourn, say aye.
Yeah.
Aye. All opposed? All right, ayes have it. Thank you. Motion